guys, check it out. We've got a 70s Vibro Champ in for a service. The customer says that the volume and tone pots are a little dirty, making some staticky noises. And we're gonna take it apart and clean it up and see if there's anything else going on with this little guy. Just a fun opportunity to take a look at what I think is a completely original 70s Vibro Champ. We'll get a little more information on it as we disassemble and look for clues on when it was actually manufactured and what type of circuit it has. So stay tuned. So on initial inspection, we can see that the faceplate is pretty dirty, and we'll clean that up. It looks like it's maybe had a little impact damage here. The jewel is broken, and this is dented in pretty good here on the faceplate. So we'll see if we can't straighten this out and maybe put a new jewel in there if the customer wants that. Also, the general condition is fairly dirty. Grill cloth is yellowed, and we've got some sort of white something or other going on the side there. That could be a little mildew. I don't know, but we'll give this a good scrub down, see if we can't get rid of all of that. There's a little bit of separation happening here in the Tolex. Not sure why that's happening, but maybe we'll get some clues once we pull apart the amplifier, take the chassis out. Yeah, everything's looking pretty original. This is maybe a newer power cable. It has a prong plug on it, so we'll see if that is wired correctly, just in case. We have somebody's social security number, which is always fun. And yeah, so other than, you know, just sort of a general dirty condition, it seems to be in really great shape. Looks like it has the original speaker in there, and even an old, you can't quite see it, but you'll see it here in a minute, an old RCA tube in there as well, so that's fun. Yeah, this will be great to take apart and get a look at everything that needs our attention. Okay, still trying to figure out a little more information about this Vibro Champ. Unfortunately, the tube information sheet has been removed. There's not really enough here to tell me anything about what year it was manufactured. I did look up this date code on the transformer, 606-2-12. That should mean that this transformer was made in 1972. That's this 2 here. 1972 in the 12th week. 606 is the model number from Schumacher, who was making these transformers. So 72, 12th week is when this transformer was made. As for the rest of the amp, we can just, I don't know, assume that it was made around that same time. Sometimes the chassis and cabinets would get done ahead of time, and parts would sit on the shelf for a while. It's hard to tell, but most likely this was made in 1972. So I'm going to go ahead and find the schematic and information for a 1972 Vibro Champ, so that we can understand the circuit and make sure that everything's working properly. A couple of interesting notes on the speaker box. I removed the speaker. It's in really great shape, so no need to replace or repair anything there. But the speaker cabinet itself has been repaired once already. You can see some glue there. I think it was dropped, and it has a pretty sizable crack in it, running all along here that I didn't really notice until I opened this up. These two pieces are a little bit offset. I think they've been glued back together, but I'm not entirely sure. And then on the outside, you can see evidence of that separation here. through the Tolex. There's a little bit of a ridge running top to bottom. So I think this amplifier maybe fell at some point, and then someone has come inside here and added glue to these joints to sort of shore it back up. I think it's fine and in good shape. I'm gonna go ahead and do a mallet test with it, you know, so I'll hang it by the handle and I'll strike it with a rubber mallet and see if I can hear any buzzing going on in the joints. If so, then we may need to revisit some of this repair work that's been done, because we don't want to have an amplifier that has the joints of the cabinet buzzing, creating a distortion from the actual box here. So we'll look into that. Well, here's a look inside the chassis. A lot of original stuff in here, but also some new components. Starting with, there is a 3-prong power cable that's been wired in, and right off the bat I thought, oh, that's not right, because they have the neutral going to the switch. And then I realized that this version of the Champ uses the chassis as a common ground or a neutral for the entire circuit. So that's what's happening here. We've got our hot going in to a fuse, and then directly connected to that are the leads to the main transformer. And then we have our neutral going to a switch, and this switch is isolated. I mean, most of them are, but it's not touching the body. It's not grounded. And here we have our two neutral sections of the transformer. We have our 6-volt here, and then our neutral input here. We have positive 6-volt over here, and negative going to ground to the chassis. This 6-volt filament wire travels along the back and engages the filaments. There's no twisted filament wire because the negative side of the filaments are going to ground on the chassis. So these amps tend to be pretty noisy because of that, especially with RF frequencies. But we won't know that for sure until we do an audio test down the road. Some other components that have been changed are, we've got some molded capacitors in here that are not original, and also these bypass caps are not original, which is fine. The original ones from 1972 maybe weren't great, but you know, we probably could have tested them just to make sure. Some other nice wiring features of this amplifier: Fender is doing shielded signal cables here from the inputs and volume down to the first tube. So that's helpful. Maybe that is enough to reduce some of the noise that comes from using the chassis as a neutral. And I'm very glad to see that we have a 3-prong cable here, so that the player cannot accidentally plug this in and reverse the polarity, thereby charging the chassis as the positive, and then making this power circuit the negative, and that would be a great shock hazard. So I'm glad to see that that is in place. I'm going to double check the plug to make sure that's wired correctly, and then we'll be safe in that regard. As far as the faceplate goes, you can see there's a deformation here around the first volume knob, around the first knob, and here. So my guess is the brunt of the force of the impact was taken by this glass jewel and this knob. So during my cleaning process, I'm going to go ahead and remove all of these knobs and the faceplate and try to push this chassis back into shape a little bit here. So I'll try to bend this back out and also take this divot out of the faceplate and chassis behind it. Chassis overall is in pretty good condition, but it does have a film of chalky white residue on it, which I think is part of the basement existence that it's been living. Just mildew, that sort of thing, condensation and what have you. So I'm going to go ahead and clean that off of here as well, just to brighten it up a little. Also, it looks like someone's replaced the output transformer. We've got a shiny new output jack here without the harsh metal screws like we have on the foot pedal jack. So that's a nice update. We shouldn't have to worry about that component. As far as the tube complement, we had a nice looking RCA 5Y3 rectifier in there. So hopefully that's functioning well and we can put it right back in. We have a Groove Tubes 6V6. It's looking a little cooked here, just from the label. I don't know. We'll put it in the tester, see how it does. And then a pair of Rubies in the 12AX7 positions. They look pretty shiny, but we'll test them as well, just to make sure everything's copacetic. I'm going to clean this grill cloth a little bit here. This is where the Fender logo was. I've taken it off. You can see how nice and shiny it used to be. So we're going to attempt to get some of this disgustingness off of here. Some of that brown is actually just the table showing through, but it is fairly soiled. I'm just going to use a little bit of soapy water. I've got Ivory in there. Ivory's pretty mild cleaner. And my toothbrush. I'm going to just work in small overlapping circles and then dry off with a paper towel. I've already blown it off with the air compressor to get most of the dirt out. And so now we'll just give it a light scrub. I don't want to loosen up the fibers so much that this sags or that little pieces start coming off. We're in the shop now and I'm working on straightening out the front panel. I've actually done almost all of it. It's pretty much straightened out now. You can see that that first volume pot is where the really big dent was. And that's been straightened out. And then also the spot where the lamp was, the pilot light, has been fixed as well. Still a little bit of a dimple there, but not too bad. So let me show you how I did that. I cut a piece of steel bar. This stuff is pretty thick. It's about 3/4 of an inch square tube. I have a 3/8 sized hole here and a 1 inch sized hole here. So for the pilot light, I ran a 1 inch bolt from behind through here and then through the bar and bolted it down, and then just tightened the nuts until this piece on the back flattened out the steel chassis. I did make sure you use an extra thick washer for this process. Don't use like the flimsy guys, and fairly large, like Fender style washer would be helpful. Fender like on a car, not Fender like this amp. And then same thing over here on the volume pot. I just used a 3/8 sized bolt. And actually, because the area in the back is pretty tight here with all of the control knobs that I've had to remove, I came in the other way. I came in from the front through the bar and then through the chassis and put the nut or put the washer and the bolt on the back side and then tightened it from the outside until that deformity went away. Now, the other thing that helped with the indentation going this direction. So in other words, it was going like this and I pulled it out, but it was also dented this way. So in order to get those dents out, I actually used this as a lever. So once I had it bolted on perpendicular, I could grab up at the top and manipulate the chassis. I actually used this last hole as well to get things totally straightened out. So that's just a tip on how to straighten out the faceplate of a chassis. Of course, I still have to straighten out the aluminum display here, and it's pretty smashed up. That may be a little bit more difficult. I'll probably just use a rubber mallet and put this between some paper towels or actual towels. Because this is aluminum, when it bends, it stretches. So I'll just try to get it back as flat as I can. The steel doesn't stretch, so it just goes back to the shape that it was once you get enough force placed on it. All right, there you go. Just doing the final check on the Champ here. You can see I've got everything put back together already with the new faceplate and, well, the original faceplate, but it's nice and straight now. And the new jewel. I did resolder a couple of loose connections in here, nothing serious, but I did not change any other components yet. Cleaned the tube sockets and tightened those up, tightened all the grounds, and checked all the voltages. Things are running a little hot in here compared to the schematic, which isn't super surprising. That tends to happen with these 70s Champs. They're just trying to get as much wattage out of these as they can, and so true to form, the bias reading I'm getting is hot. It's reading about 16 watts plate dissipation on a 6v6, and maximum plate dissipation for 6v6 is only 14 watts. So I'm going to contact the customer and see if he wants me to change the bias on this in order to get that tube back into spec. I think he's going to want me to leave it. This guy is a harp player, and he wants this amp to distort and scream and overload and all that stuff. So not having clean headroom is not really going to be a big deal for him. But I'm going to ask anyway. So as you can see right here, we got 343 on the plate voltage. The maximum for that tube is 350, so it's just underneath. And then 49 milliamps plate current. Yeah, which puts us around 16. So Fender in this circuit has a 470 resistor here, cathode resistor to ground. So I'm going to see if he wants me to change it. If he does, I'm not sure that I actually have the right thing to add on to this or to replace it with. I might do like a fairly low resistance 1 or 2 watt capacitor in series with this guy, just to equal out the right amount. That way, if he plays it and doesn't like it, I could pull it back out and just tab this original resistor back down, and I wouldn't have to, you know, fill with it too much. So just pull this leg, add an additional resistor into the chain, tab it down here to ground, give it back to the customer, let him play it a little bit. If he does not like it that way, I can just pull this additional resistor back out and go back to this supercharged bias that he's had. Working on the circuit board here for the Vibro Champ. I went ahead and replaced the electrolytics bypass caps, etc. that were in here. We had a bunch of these old Mallorys, and word on the street is that these are no good, not a good. So went ahead and got some replacements in, some MODs. They're same specs and in the same locations. I also changed out this 470 resistor, the cathode resistor, for this nice looking old guy here. It's measuring about 750, 760. So we're gonna fire up the Eurotubes tester again and see where we're at with bias. We were more than 100% on the tube, so that's just not safe. That tube could fail and take a bunch of other components with it, so better to get it down to at least below 100. Hopefully we'll get down to around 80% with this resistor. If not, we can try some other ones, no big deal. Got plenty to choose from. All right, that's the update. All right, here we are after rebiasing with the new cathode resistor. we're about 12.8, 12.9 watts, so we're under 100%. I'm gonna call that a win. I'm not gonna bias it any cooler because the person who owns the amp wants it to be running hot, but at least now we're not in the danger zone. I'm gonna leave the amp on for a while just to make sure that everything is functioning properly, and then we'll do an audio test to see what it sounds like. In the meantime, I'm cleaning the cabinet, so I thought I'd show that to you over here. It's coming out pretty nice. Here's that funky split in the wood again. Still pretty obvious. For cleaning, I typically use like, you know, just your basic multi-surface cleaner, nothing too aggressive, but to get the Tolex clean and get down in these grooves and stuff, I typically use like a toothbrush. So this is just like a scrubbing brush like you can get in the supermarket. The bristles are fairly stiff, but not like so hard that they're gonna punch through or scratch this material. So I'll go ahead and clean all of the sides of this, and then I will apply a little bit of Armor All on there, that little shine and UV protection for this Tolex. Well, we got the champ all put back together, and now it's time for a little audio test. Before I do that though, I'll just sort of review everything we did to the champ. We took everything apart, including taking the faceplate off and straightening out the chassis and faceplate. So now it's nice and even all the way across. We had two big dents and a broken jewel light, so I'll replace that. We went through and replaced the old Mallory white capacitors and the cathode resistor to get the bias where we wanted it. Now we are running just under 13 watts of output on that 6V6, so we are in about 90% range. This should break up nicely for our harmonica playing friend. We also cleaned the cabinet quite a bit. Got all the super gross stuff off of here, and even cleaned the grill cloth a little, although not much of the shine is left in these threads, so not a lot more that could be done there. All right, let's do a little audio test. This is my shop Telecaster and the neck pickup. We've got things set at 5 for bass and treble, and we'll put the volume at about 5 as well. Dead quiet right now, no hum, no hiss. Very nice. Let's try the bridge pickup. Start to get a little break up there. Yeah, nice. Okay, let's try a little more volume and see what happens. There we go. Great, I think he's gonna love that. All right, let's make sure the tremolo is still working and sounds good. There it is, nice and slow. Ooh, yeah. slow it down a little more, but this sounds pretty awesome to me. All right, that's gonna do it for the VibroChamp service. Stay tuned for more videos, and make sure you like and subscribe this channel so you can see what happens next.